Hezbollah is in a very difficult position with no good options for an exit. They don't want to escalate hostilities with Israel into a full-scale war, but they also can't disengage without losing face. The entire Middle East is holding its breath, waiting to see what will happen next. Meanwhile, Hamas continues to act as if they're winning, while the IDF has begun to operate in Rafah. I'm Yair Pinto, and this is your daily boots-on-the-ground report about what is happening in Israel on this 138th day of the Hamas-Israel war. In recent days, reports in Arab media indicate that Qatar and Egypt, the mediators in the negotiations to release Israeli hostages and come to an arrangement for a ceasefire, are pressuring the terrorist organization Hamas to drop the absurd demands they're making. However, the Iranian-backed terrorist organization Hezbollah is also telling Hamas the same thing. The reports say that in recent weeks, Hezbollah leader Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah communicated to Hamas that their demand that Israel release hundreds of Palestinian security prisoners with background of blood on their hands is unrealistic, and Israel would not be able to comply with this demand even if it wanted to. Nasrallah has also stated that from the beginning of this conflict, he does not wish to fight a large war with Israel at this time. Rather, he said that we are fighting here to help the Gaza Strip in weakening the Israeli army, to make it difficult for it, and to increase the pressure. Even within the Gaza Strip, support for Hamas is disappearing. Last night, residents of the city of Jabalia in the north of the Gaza Strip and the city of Rafah in the south of the Gaza Strip went out into the streets to demonstrate against Hamas. Since the war began, there have been several demonstrations by Gazan residents against the terrorist organization Hamas, but this is still a rather unusual event. In the documents distributed to the Palestinian social media networks, the residents of the cities are recorded chanting slogans against the leader of Hamas in Gaza, Yahya Sinwar, and against the head of the political bureau of the organization, Ismail Haniyeh, who continues to live in a luxury hotel in Qatar. The demonstrators also cried out for humanitarian aid and chanted, "We need food, we need flour, Sinwar and Haniyeh, stay away from us, you thieves." Chants were also heard against the representatives of Hamas in Lebanon. "Get out of Lebanon. The people are the victim. Gaza had redeemed you in spirit and blood."
Hamas was outside of the accepted majority of the Palestinian people, Palestinian Authority, the recognition of Israel, the recognition of negotiated settlement, their refusal to advocate for violence.
When we look at all these developments together, it would appear that Hamas is well on the way to complete destruction, but their leaders either don't understand that or they don't care. So they continue to stubbornly insist on making absurd and impossible demands, refusing offers that would allow them to survive because it would mean they would lose face and have to admit they made a big mistake. Thus, it is left to time and the power of the IDF to force a resolution to this complicated set of problems, and the ordinary people of Gaza and Israel are the ones who will continue to suffer from the stubborn arrogance of the Hamas leadership. It is also up to us to continue to pray for the safety of the abductees. Please also continue to help us spread the truth by sharing our content and following us on social media, and continue to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Getting back into the news about the Gaza Strip, I can report to you today that the combat team of the Paratrooper Brigade continues to deepen the fighting in the area of West Khan Yunis. Heavy engagements, often at close range, have led to the elimination of many Hamas terrorists and the destruction of many weapons and explosives that were meant for Hamas to be used against Israelis. Last night, a sweep was made of a building adjacent to a UN school, which is being used as a humanitarian shelter for the residents of Gaza. The IDF troops found a massive weapons stockpile, ammunition, and explosives in this building, as well as a hallway that connected this building to the United Nations school. The terrorists routinely used this hallway to retrieve weapons that they used to fire on IDF troops. A small storage unit in the yard next to the school was also found, and it was filled with weapons and ammunition. The home of the head of the anti-tank system of the Khan Yunis brigade was also raided and found to be filled with weapons, ammunition, and intelligence materials, which are currently being analyzed. Elsewhere, the combat team of the paratrooper brigade was hard at work evacuating the civilian population from the combat area for the sake of their safety. While this was going on, about 60 terrorists who had been attempting to hide amidst the civilian population so they could escape the area were identified and arrested. They will be interrogated, and the information they give the IDF will be used to identify and eliminate other threats. I must make a brief comment about this, as this ridiculous situation whereby Hamas cynically makes use of UN facilities, which are supposed to be neutral territory, has been allowed to continue for years. The UN pretends to not be aware of it, but this is not credible. UNRWA is an organization that Hamas uses like a cancerous tumor in the body. Hamas grew up within UNRWA and rooted itself inside. More evidence of this was displayed on the last 24 hours when the combat team of IDF Unit 405 engaged in a large force of Hamas terrorists in the Zaytun neighborhood south of the Gaza Strip. Once again, during this engagement, the terrorists used UN facilities as cover to fire at IDF troops. The IDF subsequently searched several near buildings and discovered weapons and ammunition inside private residence. The Israeli Air Force also coordinated with the IDF ground units during the fighting and conducted several tactical strikes on terrorist infrastructure that threatened our forces, including observation positions, warehouses, and tunnels. In the south of the Gaza Strip, the IDF is preparing for a major entry into the city of Rafah and has already begun aggressively patrolling the area. At the same time, the IDF continues to operate in Khan Yunis, engaging in daily battles with terrorists and destroying enormous quantities of weapons and ammunition that they find. The Givati Brigade is active in these battles alongside other units, including the paratroopers and the engineers. I want to conclude by saluting a hero of Israel who fell yesterday defending the state of Israel. His name is Sergeant Avraham Wolfgen, 21 years of age, from Netanya. He's a fighter in Battalion 932 of the Nachal Brigade, and he was killed in the battle in the northern part of the Gaza Strip. I would like to ask you to continue spreading the truth with us of what is happening in Israel, in the Gaza Strip, and in the Middle East at large. People should know the truth and should know how to pray for the situation and for the peace of Jerusalem. So thank you for uniting with us in prayer.